Happy Devils Wednesday. It's noontime Eastern here on the East Coast. And I started to wonder why, Nick Villano. What would have happened if we broadcasted at our normal time at 9 p.m. Eastern every Wednesdays during the Devils-Flyers game, and the title is "We Need to Calm Down"? That would have been bad, Nick.
Yeah.
That would have been bad. Well, this is the State of the Fan Address, episode 25, title "We Need to Calm Down." We've got a big podcast today. We have from the Sporting News deputy editor, Jackie Spiegel, coming on to the podcast. Obviously, we're going to play the game at the end of the podcast. Mike Lucci, contributor of Pucks and Pitchforks, coming on. Nick, wow, it's quite unusual for us to be doing this at this hour. I'm still trying to get used to it. You look a little bit chipper during noontime versus 9 p.m. You seem like you got a lot of energy. What's going on, man?
Hey, yeah, I mean, it's big energy. It's been, I've had a couple days since the Devils have broken my heart and torn into pieces. So, I've had some time to rest, some time to relax. I've had some caffeine. I've had some time to really collect my thoughts. I've been cursed out a lot on Twitter this week. It's why it was an aptly named podcast, because honestly, Sam, the fan base it's been rough.
Now, do you think people are really losing their minds, or they're just trolling online? Like, I've seen the Facebook comments in other Facebook groups. I've seen Twitter comments, or just people just going crazy. The fire John Hines. I know he's on the hot seat this year, but 2 games. I wouldn't be calling for his head after 2 games, but and obviously, being from New Jersey, there's a little bit of Jersey sarcasm in there. Do you think they're really Devils fans losing their minds right now, or is this just having a little bit of fun?
I don't know with this fan base, Sam. I'm hoping it's having a little bit of fun. I mean, the problem is that I know that us as a blog, the Pucks and Pitchforks blog on the Fansided Network, we have to write, we write 65 to 100 pieces a month. So we're going to react to everything. And I guess that the "you need to calm down" crowd didn't like that. We said things like Jack Hughes is having a rough start. And we talked about, we addressed the John Hines talk in multiple posts. I personally wrote a post in which I said that that first loss was completely on John Hines. We weren't talking about getting him canned, but we addressed that first matchup with the Winnipeg Jets, where they went up 4-0 and they blew that lead. And Sam, I don't know if you saw the numbers, but the Devils were one of 4 teams in the last 1,700 situations to blow a four-goal lead and lose. 4 out of 1,700. That's like winning the lottery numbers there. So I think that the coach needed to be held accountable, because I feel like that he does have a certain smugness about him that kind of makes you want to say these kinds of things, where it's we need you to say, hey, and no coach does this. This isn't on Hines. This is just a hockey coach mentality. But sometimes the fan base wants you to hear you say, hey, that was on me. Hey, I made a bunch of changes in the third period that did terribly. But, on top of it, we do need to calm down, because, what happened is Corey Schneider got hurt in the middle of the third period. And I wanted to point this out because I thought it was funny, is you see him stretching in front of the bench. You see him stretching in front of the bench. And Mackenzie Blackwood doesn't move a muscle. He's like, okay, he's just stretching out the cramp. He'll be fine. He'll go back in the game. Nothing's happening. And then Corey books it past Mackenzie Blackwood, and Mackenzie's like, oh, he's like scrambling to get his mask. Not ready at all. And I understand you always have to be ready to go in a game no matter what position you play, especially as a goalie. Like, these things happen, but he just got caught flat-footed. And then after the shock of losing that game, the next night he has to go right back in there and, try to build this team up. And he just wasn't in a position of positivity and wasn't in a successful position. And they got trounced by the Buffalo Sabres. 7-2 is not a score you ever want to see from this Devils team. And honestly, it's been a lot of major issues, but I got to hand it to John Hines after saying all that, is because he's made the line changes that kind of make sense. Jack Hughes has been terrible through two games. His Corsi for percentage is some of the league's worst. I think it's around 16, and the average is 50. And you're on a scale of 100, and he's at 16 for certain matchups. And then John Hines, for some reason, put Miles Wood on his left, and I love Miles Wood. I've admitted that. But he's not a good fit for Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes is a distributor. He needs finishers. That's Gusev. And I think right now the best fit would be, Simmons on his right, even though I was against it all season. But putting him with Coleman and Simmons gives him more of, less of a defensive responsibility, more consistency on his left and his right. And both those guys have finished in the past. Simmons has been rough at finishing to start the season, but we saw Coleman finish one of the best goals that we've seen in years. I mean, it's in him and the Maltsev goal are early contenders for, oh my God, moment of the year. So, Sim, I know that's a lot to digest all at once, but it's been a very weird first two games.
Very weird. They got off to a great start with that 4-0 lead. That Blake, seems like ever since that Blake Coleman goal, it's been downhill since. Let's focus on the positives here. They came out. The Rock was rocking in that first period and a half. There was nothing Winnipeg could do, and they had played the night before against the Rangers, I believe, and I was thinking, maybe. Maybe there's a little bit, that back-to-back, maybe there's a little bit of, fatigue, tired and this and that. But you got to give credit to the Winnipeg Jets. They came roaring back. They took advantage of Mackenzie Blackwood coming off cold from the bench and trying to hold the fort. So you got to give that team credit. They're just a very good team. Now, up in Buffalo, the Sabres were just, the crowd was into it. The Sabres were just skating so fast. And that's the second leg of the back-to-back, for the Devils. So, again, you can't judge John Hines on the first two games. But, however, I could see Devils fans getting a little anxious because the last 4 or 5 years, we want to see the Devils live up to that potential, but really, if the Devils are 11-5, by late November or whatever, yes, you give them the yank. But right now, it's just way too early.
Oh my goodness! Please, gosh, no.
Yeah, I know, but probably sooner than that. But let's calm down, Devils fans. Let's stay positive here. There are teams that start off 0-2, and again, I know they're 0-1-1, and they got that point, but I still think it's, in my mind, still 0-2. That, let's see how they react in Philadelphia. Let's see how they react against the Edmonton Oilers, the back-to-back, and before we start, pushing ourselves off the ledge. Your team is 0-1-1, and I'm looking forward to hearing our guest Jackie Spiegel from the Sporting News why she thinks the Devils will have success this season.
Here's the thing: is that if the Devils beat the Flyers tonight, they shoot up to 4th place in the Metropolitan Division. So obviously, it wasn't an ideal scenario. But if they win the next 2 games, then they're tied with Washington, who we all pretty much agree is the best team in the league, even though the Hurricanes have been going out to a torrid start. But yeah, I mean, it's way too early to even get worried about it. It's a back-to-back. Weird things happen on back-to-backs, things that are unexplainable. And if you look at some of the teams that are in the bottom, Florida has looked really bad. Sergei Bobrovsky hasn't really looked comfortable at all in net for Florida. The Dallas Stars have looked kind of meh. They're 1-3 to start. The San Jose Sharks are 0-4. Like, imagine, the amount of moves that they made in the offseason, re-signing Erik Karlsson, and that fan base lost its, they lost their captain, and Pavelski was their captain, right? I think they lost their captain, and now they're 0-4, even though they spent big money to bring these players back. And imagine the craziness that it would be if we were 0-4 at this point. So, the Devils, it could be much, much worse. It could be much, much worse. We're trying to work out the kinks. The big problem that I've brought up is that the Devils play 7 home games against 4 road games this month. So, those numbers are always going to even out, because obviously play 41 home games, 41 away games. So if you're going to waste this time when you have, this much of a disparity between home games and away games, that could hurt you later in the season when you do have to go on the road more often.
Yeah, this is the time to pad the games now, these 2 points now, because you're going to need them in March and April if you're going to even make the playoffs right now. So the Devils don't have, right now they're still trying to gel, starting to, get to know each other quite a bit. Jack Hughes, getting acclimated in the NHL, for the first time. They need to start putting it together quickly, because, again, I know some fans are saying, the positive fans, Devils fans out there are saying, well, look at St. Louis. Well, yes, that's nice, but that doesn't happen very often, where you go from worst to first that quickly. And, again, I think that, Devils fans, just let them play the games. Let's see a few more games before we start, really panicking here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the Devils fans, I mean, I just think everybody's on edge. We need to calm down in both ways. The fans that are ready to jump off the ledge and say we're gonna, go for Lafreniere and we're gonna be lottery warriors again, and Taylor Hall is leaving and things like that. And we do need to calm down. And we addressed most of those things on the website this week because people were talking about it, because we saw people ready to jump off a ledge and say season over, playoff aspirations over, keeping Taylor Hall aspirations over, Well, but at the same time,
sorry, Nick. Well, you know what I say? Look, I said this last year. The Devils started off 4-0. Now, I think towards the end of last season, before the regular season concluded, I said, at this point, I wish they started 0-4, and I'm on the ledge, and then they go on a major run and get in the playoffs, right? So
yeah,
it goes both ways, and maybe, I know there's no, I don't know. I'm just superstitious, but maybe this team needs to go 0-4 so their heads don't get that big, and they start working on the fundamentals and start working on their chemistry and start working harder, knowing that, hey, we just got ourselves in a mini hole. Let's try to get ourselves out of it. And looking in the Facebook Live, Anna. Says that she believes that she goes, I feel the Devils can make a turnaround. Janine says daytime podcast, yay. Well, but and then David Decker writes, imagine not winning a cup since 1975.
Oh,
yeah,
that's shots fired right there.
Yeah,
I love that feistiness of the fan base.
Yeah, and And David Decker says, "Stop that woo." Anyway, so yeah, look, it's just 2 games, people. Now we got another 2 games, and there's going to be another 2 games, and then at what point do we start evaluating? Hey, yeah, we got to make a change here in the coach. We're far away from that right now. John Hines needs some time with this new group, this new nucleus, and it should be interesting to see what the results are. But at some point, Nick, you have to hold John Hines accountable. I mean, he's been there for a while. I know as a fan, I want to see them win. It's all about winning now. So, but let me get our next guest on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline in a couple minutes. Nick, yeah, sorry, I think I read a lot of the the chats chatter. So, but you're gonna have to go solo as I get Jackie Spiegel on in about a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing. I have nothing but plenty of stuff to talk about because like I said, I've seen everything. I've seen everything from this fan base. From everything is over. Everything is terrible. This is going to be another terrible double season. To you need to not even bring up everything that's bad because it's too early to. I need some people to be in the middle with me. I need some people to kind of bridge this gap, bring it back into the middle because we can say that those 2 games were terrible and we need to take something out of them and we need to figure out, hey, Jack Hughes has terrible underlining numbers. Let's do what we can to fix them. Hey, the first line has been great, but every other line has been shuffled and not making sense. And hey, those defensive pairings do not work. We don't need Andy Green and PK Subban on a line together and while Andy Green hasn't been terrible, it's not a fit. I've seen PK Subban too often thinking he has to do too much, and that's not what I want PK Subban to do this year. I want PK Subban to kind of focus on doing the things he does well, which is puck handling, getting the puck into the zone, hitting that big slap shot. I don't want him to have to focus on carrying this entire defensive unit, and I feel like that he's done his best to do that. But if you pair him with Sami Vatanen, who's also he was really good in the Winnipeg game. He wasn't that good in the Buffalo Sabres game, but no defenseman was. But if you pair him with you pair him with Will Butcher, which would be an interesting matchup because that would take some of the offensive responsibility. So I think that I think there's a lot going on there. I think the defense has a lot of work to do, but John Hines did make a couple changes. It looks like Vatanen will play on the top line tonight. I'm not really sure what to do with Severson, but I want to see how he plays. I think they put him with Carrick. I think they put him with Carrick tonight. So I want to see how that does. I want to see what he looks like without Mueller before I really judge him. Sam, you're back.
Yes, I'm back. We have a special guest. She is Sporting News Deputy Editor, Jackie Spiegel. Jackie, you're on with Nick and Sam. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, we always got to have somebody on who's going to pick the Devils to win things. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I think, I picked them to win the Metro because of, look, you got Jack Hughes, obviously number 1 overall. You got PK Subban on defense. Corey Schneider, a healthy Corey Schneider, back in net. Nikita Gusev, scoring machine out in the KHL. They got some solid players, some key players. But a lot of my basis for the prediction was Corey Schneider. I was at a couple of preseason games. I thought he looked on point. Corey Schneider of old, and he's an elite goalie, right? So as long as he's back there and can play at the level that we've seen him play in years past, I think this Devils team will surprise a lot of people. It's early, guys. It's early. 2 games.
Yeah, I mean it's very early, and And you brought up Corey Schneider. Obviously, Corey Schneider got a little nicked up in that first game, and I think that was kind of the turning point for those two games to kind of go as badly as possible. Because Mackenzie Blackwood, I think, is 22 years old, so I don't think he's the kind of goalie that's in the position he is in now, where he can kind of just go in cold and then play on a back-to-back and dominate. I mean, we saw him play well at times last year too, but I still think he's kind of like a 30 game goalie against Schneider's 52. And for those who were wondering, we brought Jackie on because she is one of the only, national writers who have the Devils in the position that where they can win the Metropolitan Division. And I think a lot of people have just penciled in the Washington Capitals because they do have a very talented team, but this Metropolitan Division's going to eat at each other over and over and over and over and over again. And I actually think that, you brought up Jack Hughes, you brought up Nikita Gusev. These are players that don't have that workload that, we already see it with the Penguins with Evgeny Malkin going down. And, the Devils have this youth and this depth at the same time where they can kind of call next man up. They got Mikey McLeod and Nathan Bastian and a bunch of other people in the AHL who could come up, also young players with talent. So I do like your prediction. I'm not, this is more than just a homer pick. And like you said, I'm with you where it comes down to Corey Schneider. I think if that injury was as bad as it looked when it first happened, I would be a little bit worried about your prediction right now. But the fact that he's playing tonight, the next game after the back-to-back, I think is huge.
Well, I was at that game against the Jets, and look, that's a lineup that has Patrick Laine. That's a lineup that's Kyle Connor and Shifley and Blake Wheeler and even Billy Hennel has looked really solid on defense, and Corey looked great. I thought he looked, he was seeing the puck well, positioning properly. When he went to the bench, I actually thought initially it looked like it was a equipment issue, and then he kind of like grabbed his stomach a little bit. So I actually didn't think it was anything leg related, which is, obviously he's had hip issues in the past. So when it did come out that it was cramps, it kind of made sense a little bit, and that's something that can be balanced out with the proper electrolytes and whatnot. So I'm not surprised. And Tuukka Rask left last night too with some similar issue, or it was at the end of the game. I'm not really sure, but I'm not surprised that Corey's back in. Like I said, I thought he looked really good in the preseason. And yeah, I think a lot of the Devils this year, success this year will rely on him. But 7-2 to start the season is not a great number, to give up 7 goals. But like I said, it's a long year. It's a long year, and as we saw from the Blues last year, who were dead last in the NHL on January 3rd, a lot can happen.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely should. We named this our title for this week's podcast is we need to come down, because we do. I mean, it's 2 games, like you said, and like we've been saying, it's a lot can happen in a back-to-back. If it wasn't a back-to-back, I think I'd be more worried. If there was a night off in between that 4-goal, abomination that was against the Jets and the game against Buffalo, I'd be a little bit more worried, because especially since Mackenzie Blackwood just didn't look so great. But there's a lot of factors going into that. Through these first 2 games, do you think there's anything the Devils should take out of this? I mean, I know we personally were talking about Jack Hughes has had a slow start. Nikita Gusev has needed some help defensively, but is there anything you think we should take out of this, or are these just growing pains that we need to work through?
Oh, I think they're definitely growing pains. They're good lessons for the young players on the team. They're good kind of like setting stones a little bit, because when you look at it from the coaching perspective, that, they went up, what was it, like 4-0 against the Jets?
Yep.
And then, he gave up 5 goals, right? Or,
4 and then a shootout. 4. Yeah.
Shootout. Yeah, he was in the shootout. But, they had turned it on. And that building was loud, I will say also. There was a lot of, the fans were great, and they were, but then they sat back a little bit when they had that 4-0 lead. And I think, it's a good lesson to learn that it's a 60-minute game. Like, you have to play a full 60. You can't sit back at any point. And I think it's a good lesson for the young kids. And then in all honesty, losing 7-2 is another great lesson because it shows you just how tough this league is. And hot starts don't mean anything either, right? I mean, wasn't Buffalo one of the best teams in the league last year in October? And, look how they ended up. So, that's why it's an 82-game schedule, right? Full 82-game slate, and a lot can happen over the course of the season. And, I think maybe, if you're going to give up 7 goals, let that be at the beginning of the season, right? Set a lesson that, this is the worst game we'll have all year kind of mentality.
Yeah, and it's funny. One of my writers pointed out to me that Mackenzie Blackwood had a really bad game last year where he allowed 9 goals against the Calgary Flames, and it kind of felt like the shine had worn off. But he bounced back and he looked great after that. So this is a player.
Right.
He's had a rough start to his career just in general because he had a bad AHL season. He had a really bad season right after he got drafted, and he's bounced around. I think he went to ECHL for a spell. So there's been a lot, but he's always bounced back and he's always made those adjustments to kind of get better. So I'm just not worried. I'm not worried yet, especially about the goalies.
No, I wouldn't be. I mean, it's early in the year. It's game 2, guys. We're playing, still playing game 3 tonight. So a lot of opportunities for John Hynes to tinker and to find the right combinations and to find the right, the right strategy and systems. And, you got to remember he has not had a ton of time with these guys either, right? Training camp's 2 weeks and then you're right into the season or 3 weeks and then you're right into the season. And, he knows Jack Hughes a little bit from World Championships back in June, or sorry, in May. And I don't know, personally, I actually like Jack Hughes with Gusev in the preseason game. That preseason game they played, I think it was game 1 of the preseason, where Hughes ended up scoring the overtime winner. I just thought they played really well together. But, and Jack Hughes needs that. He needs, I think, Nick, you talked about it, right? He needs that elite goal scorer with him. He played in the national team, U.S. national team with Cole Caulfield, and he had a ridiculous number of goals, and he needs that elite scorer with him. So maybe I don't know, maybe him and Gusev, and then maybe a Wayne Simmons for the physicality on the end. It's hard because you're right into the season, so you got to figure out which line combinations work, and that takes time. Takes tinkering and it takes time, and it doesn't come, game. It's very rare you get that game 1 kind of connection, that just goes the whole season. I mean, look, James Neal started playing with McDavid, and last night he was playing with Nugent Hopkins. So, and he scored 4 goals last night. So,
yeah,
it takes time.
Hey, we'll take a 4-goal performance tonight if we can get it. So just kind of piggybacking off of that, so you brought something up which kind of makes me interested, bringing up that Jack Hughes and Gusev combination, and we keep putting Wayne Simmons, and I do the same thing. I keep putting Wayne Simmons in that spot, and then I say it, and I second guess myself the second I say it, because all offseason long, I'm like, I don't want Wayne Simmons with Jack Hughes. I don't see it as a fit. I see a Wayne Simmons as a guy to put next to Zajac. They could kind of get in front of the net. They could kind of do the dirty work. They could be the dirty line that's also shuts down the opposing's top line. I really liked them in that spot. So now I'm thinking about who's on Jack Hughes' line now, and it's Blake Coleman. And the more I think about it, and this is off the top of my head, so I don't have the Corsi numbers, the Fenwick numbers, or anything like that in front of me, obviously, but I'm thinking that if you could put Gusev on the left, and then if you can move Coleman to the right, I don't think you can move both Coleman and Gusev to the right because that makes left wing such a deterrent after Taylor Hall. But if you can keep one of them on the left, and if that would be Gusev in this situation, and you put Coleman on the right, then you got 2 players who could finish, the proven finishers in whatever league that they are. And Gusev has already scored in the NHL because of just putting himself in the right position. And then you have a Coleman who can kind of play that defensive role for both of them while they kind of both get used to the speed of this league, maybe something like that could work.
I mean, it's not a bad thought. I mean, the question is finding him the right combination, right? And that's what's going to also raise his comfort level, in the league. I mean, this is all new to him, right? He's a confident kid. He loves to play the game, but he's got to find that right combination. The question is moving Gusev to a different wing. I mean, he's coming over from the KHL, which is obviously much bigger ice surface. Positioning is obviously going to be different with the smaller rink. So you have that element for him. Whether or not he can switch positions, that I don't know his history, if he's played, either wing. But I actually like Simmons. I don't know. I think, he provides some grit. He provides a big body. He provides the physicality. I think one of your writers, Rob, talked about how he can protect cues on the ice because he has that physicality and he has that, ability to keep other players in check on the ice. And he's not, I mean, look, Wayne Simmons is a guy who scored 20 plus, 25 plus goals in his career in seasons. I mean, for multiple seasons. So he is a goal scorer. Obviously last year was not the best year for him. But it'll be interesting to see the combination tonight with him and Hughes on the ice against the Flyers. And obviously, Simmons is going to be a little pumped to play his whole team. So.
Yeah. So basically, we obviously get a Wade Simmons hat trick tonight, right?
I don't know if I can make that kind of big prediction, but I think he'll have a good game. I think the adrenaline will be playing your whole team.
Folks, got to go to the William Hill Sportsbook. We're not even sponsored by them, but that's all the one I always see in the Devils broadcasts. the William Hill Sportsbook. Go put it on the Wayne Simmons hat trick tonight, right there. So beyond that, that's true.
Oh,
that's true.
There, so who knows? Yeah.
But looking past this game, kind of looking forward, obviously having the Devils in the Metropolitan Division lead and having them winning this division outright, I think that means that you see a couple of these players kind of playing above their head and playing better than projected. Who are some of those players that you think are going to do better than, preseason projections and kind of put themselves on the map this year?
Well, I didn't really check out preseason predictions. I just went off of kind of how I see, like I said, seeing Corey Schneider playing. I think PK Subban's going to have a great year. And he brings a great personality to the locker room that I think will help build that. Obviously, we haven't even talked about Taylor Hall. Having a healthy Taylor Hall again in the lineup is going to be huge. You have Palmieri. I mean, this team does have some, really high quality players. A lot of the prediction was also based on the other teams. I didn't see Pittsburgh doing as well in previous years. I wasn't sold on the Caps like a lot of people are. But yeah, I think, look, Blake Coleman's having a great start to the year. I mean, he had a career year last year and building off of that. And a lot of it has, Vatanen has, he's always been quality on the D, I think. And it's just, I think John Hines, he's a really solid coach, and, he's not afraid to make changes, as we've seen already in 2 games, or now, the third game coming up the lineup already out. And, Jack Hughes is that X factor, right? And Gusev too, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Gusev, I think, could be somebody. If Gusev is as good as advertised, I think it's going to be really hard to stop this Devils team. Now, the one last thing, we really appreciate. Hmm?
I was going to say, you got the speed. I mean, they have speed, right? Hughes is fast. Gusev's fast. I mean, Miles Wood has speed on him. I think if they can buy into the speed factor, and then you have the grittiness and the physicality with like the Wayne Simmons, and And like I said, Taylor Hall, healthy. I mean, you never know, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. So we really appreciate you spending a couple, some of your middle of the day. We had a couple things changing on us, and you were gracious to move along. So I just have one more question for you. When should we be worried? At what time do you think the Devils fan base should be like, oh, maybe all that preseason hype was wrong. Maybe we are we're in Cleveland Browns territory, I guess you could say.
Oh, I mean, maybe All-Star game.
Oh.
Look at. I mean, you got to look at the Blues. I mean, yeah, they won they had like a 20-something win streak or whatever. I mean, that's some crazy numbers in January and February, but it just, you hate to base it all on that. But I mean, and I hate to bring this up, but because, big rival, but New York Rangers, back when they went to the Stanley Cup final in 2014, that December, everyone was like, trade Lundqvist, get rid of Lundqvist, do this, do that, fire Vigneault, and it was his first year. I mean, you just, it takes time to develop. And, there's a lot of new faces on this team, so that's going to take some time to gel as well, right? So I don't know. Maybe end of December, if things are really bad, that's when you could put the panic button on. But I mean, look, things were bad with St. Louis, and they didn't make any changes, and then they went all the way to the Stanley Cup final and won the Stanley Cup. So it's hard to gauge now in today's game, right? There's so many things can happen. Unfortunately, guys can get hurt over the course of the year. Trades get made. Combination, line changes get changed. Coach, there's so many factors that play into it that, yeah, I would say maybe even by late December. Maybe All-Star game was a little late, but yeah, you just never know. You get one hot streak, right? And things turn around.
Yeah, no, we think that we do think. I mean, obviously it's way early now. But even last year, kind of around when Taylor Hall got hurt, right before that, you had Mackenzie Blackwood playing really well, and it seemed like the goalie position might have found a savior a little bit. And there was some hope in December, even though the Devils have gotten off to a horrendous start and was dealing with a ton of injuries. So, a lot can happen. Like you said, with the St. Louis Blues, it's a really good point to bring up. I mean, in January, they were the worst team in the hockey. That guy made the big bet on them to win the Stanley Cup, and I think he won $100,000. So, Devils fans, we just gotta, we gotta calm down. There's things to fix, and we can fix them, even though it's early. But we also need to calm down and not worry about what the standings say yet.
Oh, I would also add, you can't panic and all of a sudden make all these line changes and line combinations and switch things around. You got to let things gel. In my opinion, you got to let things gel a little bit and see how it goes. I know the analytics weren't great in the first two games for some of the combinations, but there does need to be some time to have things gel and to see how it plays out a little bit.
So, Jackie, before we let you go, do you have anything coming up? Any good pieces that Devils fans and sports fans can look for in the sporting news?
Yeah, I've actually been working on a story. I think people will be interested. It involves coaches, so I've been talking to a couple of coaches that have come through the metro area, and John Hines actually gave a great answer. So that'll be coming out probably in November. I don't want to give it away yet because I obviously still have a bunch of coaches to talk to, but yeah. And then I have a story probably today or tomorrow on James Neal. I don't know if that would in the interest to Devils fans necessarily, but he's really turned around his from last year, even though it's only 2 games in, or 3 games in for the Oilers at this point. He looks like a completely different player out there compared to last year when he was with the Flames. So, and then working on a new column, a new segment that'll come out every now and then with about players and their dogs. So I talked to James last night about his dogs. Yeah, I'm a dog person, so and people love dogs, right? So I talked a little bit with him last night about his dogs, and that'll come out soon. And I know Blake Coleman has a dog, so hopefully talk to him soon. And but yeah, some good stuff out there. Some good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I need more dogs in my timeline because there's just a lot of non-dog related content and my Twitter, and most of it is things that makes me sad. So more dogs would be definitely for the best. But Jackie, I really want to appreciate you spending some time with us. We look forward to all of those. And if you let us know when they're coming out, we'll make sure to kind of help you push them along. Thanks so much, Jackie.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
Well, that is Jackie Spiegel of the Sporting News, deputy editor, giving her take of the New Jersey Devils. She is the voice of reason. As I'm listening to this interview, Nick, I'm like, maybe we should wait till around All-Star break to see where John Hines fits in the scheme of things. But just remember, Taylor Hall, we want to re-sign him. If this team sucks, I'm not so sure he may stick around. You just don't know. You just really don't know at this point.
I mean, we were talking like the last time we were on the podcast, all the rumors were literally 1 week ago. All the rumors were that the deal is close. We're almost there. And like there was just so much positivity, Sam. There was so much positivity, and then one game just kind of threw it in the dumpster. And honestly, Sam, I think if the Devils came back and won that Sabres game, I still think there'd be some negativity and some people being a little worried. The fact that they got railroaded, that definitely didn't help things. But again, it was a certain set of circumstances that really kind of threw things off. So I think we're in good shape. I think we're fine.
Yeah, again, there's no need to panic, Devils fan. I read some of these comments, and some of these Facebook groups are now the admins have to start approving your posts because it's probably gotten that bad. But you know what?
Geez.
There are a lot of trolls out there.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm one of them. I like to troll too. But honestly, let's not take some of these trolls that seriously. They just want to get you going, because the team, losing doesn't get you going, but the trolls start getting going. And then all the Twitter fights and all the Facebook comments, So, but we try to keep it positive. Last Sunday, who better to keep it positive than Chico Resch? Another voice of reason.
Yeah.
What's going on. I mean, he actually put his name on the line. His career on the line. He said, if the Devils don't make the playoffs, like he's quitting. He's quitting because he knows nothing about hockey or something like. He said something to that effect. Speaking of dogs, by the way, I'm gonna tweet this out on the Let's Go Devils podcast Twitter feed at Let's Go Devils Pod. It's gonna say dogs, and I'll tag Jackie and you, Nick, and I think you'll like that post. If anybody that wants to see this tweet that I'm putting out on the Let's Go Devils podcast feed, it's ice hockey penalties, and it's the dog version of it. So anyway, that was a little plug there.
There you go.
Tweeting that out.
He's plugging his tweets. Gotta go like the tweets, folks. You gotta get the numbers up. Yeah, but I think that's the general consensus from all of us is like we all need to calm down, and people have the people who want to tell me that our articles need to calm down as well. I understand. I do. Can you just read the articles first, please? Because most of us in the articles are saying, hey, we know it's early, but Jack Hughes can fix this. We know it's early. Taylor Hall is not going to refuse to sign because of 2 games. We understand these things, but these are also things that need to at least be addressed.
Yeah, and if I'm looking at the YouTube live feed, there's one comment from Jalen Bales. Boring. And then I looked at his avatar. It's a New York Rangers logo. Yeah, come October 17th, Jalen. You
I
know
swear.
the Devils are going to beat the Rangers. Go ahead. Sorry.
I have not. I don't remember ever actively going out and seeking to see what the Rangers have said about anything. I've never listened to a Rangers podcast. I didn't even listen to that Rangers podcast that Keith Kincaid was on, because I don't understand what I'm going to get out of it. But it seems that Rangers fans are just coming and seeking out Devils content just to kind of see what people are saying. And I gotta say, maybe talk about your own team. maybe not come out the king, because you just keep missing. In the New York area, in the New York metropolitan area.
This is the extent of Rangers content on sports radio talk. Hey, Joe Beningo, the Rangers. I don't know. They're just a disaster. Devils. They have no fans. They just they got 4 or 5 fans walking into the Rock. All Rangers fans. And then you got Francesa. At least Francesa just admits that he doesn't know anything about hockey. At least he admits to it. And then he goes, talking about the Yankees World Series lineup when the seasons had been over for 2 weeks. So that's the extent. So what Ranger fans are doing is they're going to watch and listen to Devils content, because we actually talk about hockey. Ranger fans, they don't watch hockey. They just watch the Rangers.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
But on October 17th, I got a plug here. On October 17th, the Let's Go Devils podcast is going to be at BJ Ryan's for a pregame podcast again. And we're going to have some special guests. And this is it's going to be a rivalry podcast. So just a little plug there. We're going to promo it out a little bit later today. But yeah, I think I'm getting a little antsy, Nick. I kind of want to play the game a little bit. Is that that time where I should dial up the next victim?
It's game time. I got a fun game for you. Have you ever played or have you I don't know if you played it, but have you ever watched the $100,000 pyramid?
Long time ago, Nick. Long time ago.
Okay, so today we're going to play pyramid. I have no idea how this is going to work, because it's going to be based on lot off of me, and I was trying to get a natural feel to the game, so this might go terribly, but it'll be good content either way.
Okay. Well, I'm going to zoom in to you. You can read off a lot of the trolls comments all over Facebook right now as I get Mike Lucci on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline shortly.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for getting Mike. And actually, there hasn't been a ton of trolls today. It's an afternoon podcast, so I feel like a lot of you are listening to us at work or at school, and kind of you don't want the boss to see what you're actually doing on your time. So hey, that's fine. No worries. But we do have a couple. Hey, Jesper Squared. Yeah. I mean, I really want them to start playing Jesper Boquist. I know he played in the one game, and he didn't look that bad defensively. He only got one offensive chance, really. But not allowing. I don't think he allowed any offensive chance against them, even though that game was a train wreck. So I think that. I think you got to put him in the lineup. You got to get him those reps. And I got to mention that Ty Smith is a guy we could really use right now, and I don't want to keep dwelling on this. I don't. But he was named the WHL Player of the Week last week. Scored goals in both games as a defenseman. He looks like maybe this is what he needed. Maybe he needed to go out there and just lose, after having such a terrible preseason and just losing his confidence like he did. Maybe he just needed that kick in the butt to go back to the minor leagues, go back to juniors, and dominate a little. Maybe it is. I don't think it was. I thought he'd be fine and eventually work out his problems, and I think his skill set is too good, as we are seeing, to not make it work this season in the NHL. But, I mean, I guess that's why Ray Shero and John Hines make the big bucks, and I'm here talking to you guys, right? But either way, I still think that Ty Smith had a spot in this roster. We saw what he could do last year. We saw what he could do in the preseason last year. He did this against NHL players already a year ago. Obviously, there's some mental aspects to this, and there's some issues when it comes to the mental aspects of this, but that does not mean that you don't give him a shot to work it out. You lost him for the whole year now because of three or four preseason games. So I didn't like that. That wasn't my favorite, but who am I, Sam? I'm just some guy on the internet saying things about a hockey team.
I'm kind of steamed at Mike Lucci right now. You know why?
Why?
Because I called him and he didn't pick up. And then he tried to call me back. Then he tried to call me back while I was trying to call him. And then after the third or fourth time, he picked up. We connected. And I just want to say, Mike, that's on the Bobby's Auto Care hotline, that I'm steaming and you're going down. You're going down in the game, Mike. How are you?
All right. That's not bad. I'm ready for this.
I was expecting a little more chipperness, a little more uppity. We're talking Devils. We're doing the game. Come on, Mike. I need a little bit more oomph out of you.
It's the middle of the day out here in New York. It's kind of rainy out. I guess the weather's kind of put a damper on my enthusiasm, but I still have it internally, though. So I'm ready for this. Let's do it.
All right. So just to explain the game real quick. So for those of you who haven't watched Pyramid, basically you get a category, and then there's two people. There's one person who's shouting out clues, and the other person who's trying to guess where the clues are going. Okay? So that's pretty simple, right? We understand so far?
Yeah, can you give me like a quick example?
So basically, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be using the New Jersey Devils players, current players, as the answers, and then I'm going to be giving you one-word clues in order to get you to that answer. So, let me take an example. Say if I used Andy Green, I would say captain, long-term, can't score, old.
Last year of his contract.
Yeah, so I'll give you clues like that. Short, maybe not one, 2, or 3 words. I'll try to keep it in that format. But basically, I'll just shout those out, and I'll give each of you 1 minute, and then whoever can guess the most in that 1 minute will win the game. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Sam, are you good?
Oh, I'm good. I'm ready. I'm ready to beat down Mike Lucci.
I don't know. You're going down, Sam. Let's get this started.
Okay. So, Mike, you're going to go first. I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock if I know how to use my own phone. Okay. And 3, 2, 1. This player is defenseman. He's new to Devils. Engaged. He's boisterous. Fashion statement. Top guy. Traded.
What's his face? Do I have to wait until you finish? We'll try to shout it
No,
out.
you just say them.
Okay.
I'm just gonna keep. Yes. Also new. Forward, playing with Hughes tonight. Playing his former team. Okay, good. Goalie, hurt a lot. Hurt again this year. Back tonight. And then we got he plays right wing, usually top line. Not tonight. nickname is a tree. And then we got the 18-year-old. It just started this year.
Jack Hughes.
I'll give it to you. Okay, so timer is done. We got
What?
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we got 5.
I
Damn,
want
he's
to
got-
replay. I want to replay on that last one.
I'm to be able to beat that.
I don't know, Sam.
Ugh,
Are you ready, Sam?
Pressure's
I'm
on
ready.
you, Sam.
Okay. All right, let's put a minute back on this clock. All right, Sam. In 3, 2, 1. Too fast for his own good. Runs into things a lot.
Miles Wood.
Yes. Great shot from the point. He's went to college at Denver. He
Will Butcher.
yes. He's Swedish, but he's the older Swedish one. Same name as somebody else on the team. Little shorter.
Bratt.
Plays on the first line yes. And then we got number 1 overall pick, but he loves the hockey.
Nico Hischier.
Yes. And then we got shorter defenseman. Used to be number 1, not number 1 anymore. Traded. He Finnish. Last year of his contract.
Vatanen.
Vatanen, yes. And then we have Russian KHL MVP 2 years running.
Gusev.
New to the team. Oh, he got it just in time. Let's count them out. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, Sam, looks like you're walking away champion again.
Oh, you can't beat the wound right now. I'm on a winning streak, baby.
Well,
Which, by the way, I just got to ask you, to Nick and Mike. You guys are both Italian descent, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Janine asked me if is that your Italian accent when I was doing Joe Beningo and Mike Francesa impressions.
I mean, I hope not. You're not exactly going to get the
I
next role
never
in
said that.
Goodfellas.
I never said that. Back that.
You got to talk more with your hands. You got to be like, I never said that. I never said that.
Back after this.
So Mike, you talked to you had a piece out this week about John Hines. Just real quick before we let you go, what do you think? Do you think it's overstatement to kind of keep an eye on John Hines already, or has 5 years of this been a reason to kind of raise some eyebrows?
Yeah. So again, it's one of those pieces where the title might make you raise a few eyebrows, but if you actually read through the article, the gist of it ultimately is, considering the degree of talent that Shero brought in over the offseason, this pretty much is supposed to be the best team that John Hines has had at his disposal going into a season since for his entire tenure here. With that, so with that said, the gist of my piece pretty much was, from his perspective, there's really no excuse if he can't get things going on this team, just considering the swath of talent that was brought in. But overall, though, and I did mention it in the piece, yes, the slow start last weekend was concerning, but overall, I am pretty confident that this team's going to eventually get themselves, regroup, recollect, get themselves together, and just, start playing that competitive brand of hockey that we were all expecting going into the season.
All right, sounds good, Mike. Well, I really appreciate having you on. We're going to have you on probably in the next couple weeks because we just keep rotating y'all. So get ready for the next game and your revenge against the Woo.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike. We'll see you soon. If you want a piece of this, October 17th, meet me at the Rock or PJ Ryan's at the Rock for our big hashtag We Are the Fun live event pregame podcast. Just trying to plug. Sorry, Nick. I'm just raining on your parade. Just trying to plug.
You're good. Keep plugging.
Yeah, so speaking of plugging, we've all right, so we're doing October 17th live event. Hashtag We Are the Fun, PJ Ryan's across the street from Prudential Center. But this Sunday, Let's Go Devils podcast, we have the one and only Cam Jansen coming on as our special guest. Just wanted to put that out. I'm thinking about playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out half an hour before the podcast and actually live stream it and see if I can get through, all the characters like Glass Joe, Boncager, Piston Honda, Don Flamingo, King Hippo, all those guys, Mr. Sandman, Soda Popinski. Before we go into the podcast, I was thinking of doing that because we gotta start picking up our Twitch followers. Which, by the way, Nick, we met our only Twitch follower.
Very good. Very good.
Yes. So we have 100% engagement rate of meeting all of our fans at Twitch that watch the podcast.
I mean, but that's how you got to say it, right? You got to just say, like, this weekend I met every single one of our Twitch followers, every single one without fail. I seek them out, and they all are 100% positive. That's how you get 5 stars.
Yeah, and I asked them. I was like, "Do you watch anywhere else?" No, I just watch on Twitch. I was like, "Okay, all right, that's cool. I don't judge.
Hey, let the boy watch where he wants to watch.
Yeah, and now I have YouTube Live bouncers.
Ooh,
just in case it gets out of control on YouTube Live. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, you know what? Doing a noontime podcast. You know what we should have done is have some lunch right here while everybody else is munching down on lunch. We should be eating with our mouth. You're talking with our mouth full on live air.
Yeah, here's the thing, Sam, is that probably the worst sound in the world is hearing someone chew. I think we'd lose all of our followers on Twitch, YouTube Live, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yep.
I think we'd lose people on Instagram Live, and we're not even there yet.
Yeah. All right. So, any last thoughts, Nick?
I mean, we'd have to take our podcast to MySpace and Friendster. We'd have to try to bring people back there because they wouldn't know us there. We'd be the anonymous Devils podcast. That would be our new name. We'd have to wear masks. It'd be weird.
I think Tom would be our only users. Following us.
Yeah, because he'd be distracted by a video game.
Yeah. Well, it should be a good game tonight. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to Wayne Simmons tonight coming back to the Wells Fargo Center. And also Edmonton Oilers the night after. And it would be interesting to see how the Devils, again, these back-to-backs, I don't like them, but, you know what? You got to play them. And with Connor McDavid in town and Jack Hughes and Taylor Hall, and it should be a good matchup. Should be a very, very good next 2 days. Like to thank all of our listeners, viewers that were tuning in, making special time on our special time because of preemption next week. Nick, are we at a regular time next week?
Next week is regular time. The week after we're changing because I'm doing some nuptials the week after that. Next week we got I think we can announce it. I don't know. If we can't, then I'll get in trouble, but it's fine. But we got Chris Westcott, manager of content at the New Jersey Devils, working for the team, coming on, talking about a couple of the cool things that the Devils are doing this season, their new studio show, and then obviously what the Devils have been doing up until that point. Hopefully it's a little more positive that week.
Yeah, you know what, Nick? I may have to put on my Sunday's best for that podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Because Because I got to tell you, I watched that NJD.TV, and I almost want to take some of those clips and show Beer Baron, hey, you may want to change your background after all this time, because look at their background. It's all high-tech graphics, looks pretty. And what do you have, Beer Baron? It looks like you're in a prison.
Listen, I wore my Joker T-shirt. You know, it's I'm celebrating today. It's fine.
Yep.
So the last night, it's fine. You know, this is who we are, and this is who we'll be. But we did wear button downs last time we had Chris on, so maybe that's the new thing that we have to do.
Yeah, we'll get dressed up for Chris Westcott when he comes on the State of the Fan address on October 16th, if I'm not mistaken. That should be a good podcast. That should definitely be. Yeah, we'll bust his chops about.
We got some good guests coming. We got guests. I mean, the State of the Fan has guests all the way through the middle of November. We're working on a couple for the end of November, so we got guests coming on for the next 2 months. The flagship show, the Let's Go Devils podcast. You got some cool guests, like you said. You got Cam coming on. Gotta love Cam Jansen. Cam Jansen, one of the most fun people to talk to, I gotta say. So that's gonna be a good podcast.
Yeah, we better allot like 45 minutes, because Cam will just go on and on and on and on. You know, stories and all that, and plus, you know, we started to, you know, I kind of leaked it out the other day, and there are still some Cam groupies out there, and they will be tuning in to the Let's Go Devils podcast, because everybody loved Cam Jansen when he played with New Jersey. You know, everybody loved Cam.
You got to mention that Cam Jansen was an answer on one of our games. He was the answer last week on whether he was on the opening night roster. I think it was 2013. So you got to let him know that he's already made an appearance in this podcast through our very famous, very wonderful game.
Absolutely. Well, it's just about the end of the podcast. So what I'll do is wow, I can't believe I'm saying this. I will drop the podcast on iTunes and Google Podcasts and Spotify and all those other places that we're on after we sign off for your afternoon drive. It's usually the morning drive. Yeah, because we don't want our listeners and viewers to be watching this while they're driving. So that's why we have the podcast, the audio only version. Just as great as the video version. It's just, you just don't see us.
Yeah.
All righty. So let's cue the music up. Very good podcast today, Nick. Very good podcast. And I will talk to you off air, Nick. We're going to have our little post-production meeting. And for everybody tuning in, thank you for making special time for the State of the Fan Address, episode 25. Big thank you to Jackie Spiegel for coming on at noontime. And thank you to Mike Lucci for being a good sport as he lost to the Woo again. Till next time, let's go Devils.